In law, there are several careers a Latina can consider. One of them is immigration. And an immigration lawyer, and as a Latina, can really make a big difference for the rights of Latinos in several communities in the United States. Welcome to Ask the Latina. My guest today is Diana Marin, an immigration lawyer. She's a supervisor attorney for the Michigan Immigration Rights Center. Thank you, Deanna, for being with us today. First, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your upbringing. At what point did you end up deciding that you wanted to be a lawyer? Was it when you were in school, or how was that experience?
It was while I was in school. So I'm Diana Marin, and I'm currently a supervising attorney with the Michigan Immigrant Rights Center. And I grew up in a Honduran a household in the Bronx in New York City in the 80s and 90s. I didn't have anyone in my family that was an attorney. Um, so it wasn't until later that I had one aunt in Honduras who became an attorney, but otherwise I was sort of first generation college student. um, and it was in college that I actually got hired to be an interpreter. I was bilingual. I grew up speaking Spanish at home and in church. And that really ended up serving me well, because I got this gig at the law school, at a law school in New York City, where I was able to interpret for low income individuals, who were being represented by attorneys and law students at this law school. And there is where I really kind of got the bug, and I thought, "Wow, I might be able to do this. It seems so interesting um, and so helpful." They were really helping people that I saw as a reflection of my own experience and my own family. So that's where I got the bug, and it took me a while to get to law school, but I eventually made it.
So, what was the stages that you took to law school? I mean, first of all, when you were in high school, was there something that you took there, or was it what was your transition like from there?
Yeah, so I went to a liberal arts college in New York, and I was a little bit lost as a first generation college student, but I eventually made my way into the history department and ended up having an undergraduate degree in urban studies, which allowed me to have a lot of flexibility in the kind of courses I could take. And since I sort of had an inclination that I might want to go to law school at that point, I consulted with some of the guidance folks. There was a Latinx group at my college that I really leaned on, that really provided a great resource for me, to not just keep a hold of my Latinx heritage, but also go to people that I felt safe to ask what I felt like were stupid questions. So I learned about the LSAT there, and I was able to get a low cost LSAT prep program. The LSAT is the entrance exam for law schools. And I did that and was working and was trying to finish my degree. Didn't like the score I got and felt a little bit disillusioned. So I thought, you know what, I need to work. And I really needed to provide for my family. And so I went and I got a job at a nonprofit. No, no, first I worked as a paralegal at a law firm. I thought, okay, well, let me see what it's like to work at a law firm. And I really enjoyed it, but it was intense work. I saw how long hours that those attorneys put in. I saw what it took to, really have live that lifestyle. The golden handcuffs is what they call it. Um, and then I was like, "Okay, that was, like, interesting. I'm glad I did that," but I really wanna do nonprofit work. And so then I got another job at a housing organization, did that for a couple of years, and then I ended up going back to the law school where I worked. And they had the ability to be able to work during the day. If you worked for the law school, you could get your tuition paid for, and you took classes at night. And again, first gen, low income student, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna pay for law school. So I did that, and that's how I ended up I went back to the law school working as an administrator and eventually took the LSAT again, was happier with my score, also had all that experience of working in the law firm, working at a nonprofit, and still being committed to wanting to go to law school. And I applied and I got into the school that I was working at. So
Wow. What was the school that you were working at? Was that
uh,
in New York?
it was in New York. It's called Fordham Law School, and I went to undergrad at Fordham University in the Bronx. So
Wow, that's really great. It's
yeah,
great that you found that opportunity. You overcame an obstacle to make
yeah.
that happen. So now, what is a typical day like where you're at? You're right now at the Michigan Immigration Rights Center, correct?
Yeah, the Michigan Immigrant Rights Center, known as MERC.
Mhm.
I specialize in employment law, and specifically farm worker law, which is really a niche area of law, even within public interest. So when I went to law school, I knew I wanted to do public interest work, um, to the chagrin of my family. It's like, so you're not going to make any money. Um, and I said, no, but I will, but it just won't be as much as you expect it to be. But I knew just my heart was set on public interest work. And so I'm very happy what I'm doing. I love going to work. A typical day for me is actually, there is no typical day. There's answering a lot of emails, a lot of requests from community members. Like today, I started out my day with an hour phone call to a community leader in the
Mm,
Monroe-Lenawee County area who had questions about housing discrimination, right? I don't do
mhm.
housing discrimination, but I sure know organizations and people that do. And we talked about other stuff that he's seeing in the community. And then we started planning for a forum, right, where my organization might be able to do a Know Your Rights presentation. And we were just sort of strategizing around that. And then I went to doing some supervision because I supervise attorneys and staff at Merck, and getting on phone calls about management stuff and internal procedures. And then I went to preparing, for a meeting with a client in the afternoon where I was going to prepare him for a hearing. And so I needed to prepare myself first to prepare the client. And so
Mhm.
reviewing client documents, reviewing, and all the while sort of ping-ponging lots of emails about new cases and
Right.
other issues that are coming up.
Mhm.
Also, depositions for this week. I'm the kind of attorney that is called a litigator. We
Mhm.
file lawsuits in court. I do primarily in federal court, which is cool, and
Yeah.
especially because I don't actually have to go to court as much as people think. But I get to do a lot of writing and research and a lot of thinking about strategy. And I find it really, I just love it. I really love my work. And all on behalf of the Latinx community and farm worker community. So that makes it extra fun for me and special and important.
That's really nice. And would you say that I think lawyers tend to be more analytical anyway? That's one of the traits that's very important, right? Because you and really great writers, is what I've noticed.
Well, some of them could be better. Wherefore, and therefore, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
there's a
So
lot of writing.
yeah, you have a lot of writing and a lot of got to be right precise because it's so
Mhm,
important, probably. So
yeah.
that's really important. So, is anyone else in your family in law? Or are you the first one?
I'm the first one in the United States. I have an aunt who I adore, who, again, against all odds and obstacles, became a lawyer in Honduras. First
Okay.
one in her family. She's my maternal uncle's wife. But I actually know I didn't grow up knowing that she was a lawyer or really knowing because everything she overcame because she lived in Honduras and I was
Mhm.
living in the Bronx, and our families kept in touch. But living in different countries, you don't fully keep in touch as much as you want. And so it's only now that she's in the U.S., not working as a lawyer, unfortunately, because she's a home health aide. But that's sort of the immigrant experience, right? But really learning about everything she overcame and seeing how she was doing so much of what I did in my own life, but just like 20 years before, is
Mhm.
really an inspiration. But I am the first lawyer in the U.S. family and in my generation.
That's great. That's wonderful. So, if you went back to when you were 18, what advice would you give yourself given all this journey you've gone through?
um, don't lose confidence in yourself. Just hold on to it. Know that you're just as smart, you're just as capable, and you have the grit and the to get through it all. Yeah, it was really hard. I think, you can't help but compare yourself when you're in
Mhm.
these institutions of higher education and learning.
Mhm.
Compare yourself to your peers, compare yourself to your peers' family, right? And wonder and doubt yourself. And
Yeah.
especially at 18, I think, not knowing what the future had in store for me. But I think my family gave me a deep commitment to education. My mother, despite her low education level, understood that that was a ticket out of two places. And so I think I would definitely tell myself, like, "You are smart enough, you can do this."
Yeah.
And I sometimes had to give myself those pep talks or someone else gave them for me. So I was thankful for those people
Well,
too.
you definitely were smart because you actually overcame. Because one of the things that's very, I think, the cost of the field of going into being a lawyer can be pretty expensive, and the
It's so
time that you
expensive.
study too to get your license and everything. But you overcame
Absolutely.
those obstacles in great ways by working at the where you were going to study at, at the college. So that's really a great idea. So you did a really good job with doing that because I think many people would wonder how many get the money. Of course, there's financial aid, but maybe as Latinos, we don't like the financial aid too much.
Yes.
And especially families of new immigrants that come to this country, probably, they think about that. But I think it was a great solution that you did. So like, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I would also say be creative, think outside the box. Yes, as first gen, or like maybe not coming from a household with a lot of resources, you're on your own to figure out the financial aspects of an undergrad education and a graduate school education. And yes, law school is extremely expensive. I wish I had told myself also, like, go look for those scholarships. There are things out there for you. I was just so overwhelmed that I could not get myself to, I was just trying to get through the LSAT and trying to get through, the overcoming of the doubting of myself. But I have met I've had some interns that have just been so resourceful, and I'm just so in awe of them, where they've gotten scholarships, like full rides. Maybe it's not exactly the first choice law school, but at least it's still good education and it's still a good place, and they're going to be able to leave debt free. And at the same time, you're right. We shouldn't be afraid to take on this kind of debt,
Mhm.
because there are programs. I'm counting on the public interest loan forgiveness program,
Mhm.
to help me pay off my law school debt. Um, I know some people can't do that, but I think can't be afraid of the loans. I think that it's a good debt to take on, in my opinion,
Right,
because it
right.
furthers your career and it gets you to places that you otherwise can't get to.
Yeah, definitely. And and I think what I see as far as law, especially in where you are working with the community, you are probably connected a lot with representatives, state representatives, and different kinds of folks that are, involved working with not only civil rights, but a lot of other different things that would affect housing, like what you're working with.
Mhm.
So that's really good. Did you ever think about maybe running for state representative or?
Oh, no. My husband would kill me if I ran for office. I don't know. I've never thought of that. It's never, and I think it's because there's so much lack of representation. I can't see myself.
We need
I'm
more
like, who?
Latinas.
y- Right? Yeah, we certainly do. I mean, gosh, am I in awe of the ones that are out there doing it?
Yeah.
I'm very happy where I am right now. I feel like I'm becoming an expert in my field, and I'm doing it for the benefit of the farm worker community and the low wage immigrant workers that in the state of Michigan. I feel like I have a lot to give still in that area. And so but I do support and admire and think absolutely that with a law degree, you have so much versatility that you can enter the political realm. And you can do it quite nicely. In fact, this is where it comes, like, I remember this one student in law school. I could see her just kind of not paying attention too much. And I would be like, gosh, like what? And so I got to know her a little bit. I was like, and then she's like, I'm just here because I need this degree so that I can enter politics. Like, I'm going to go work in the Hill. Like, I don't care about what you all, I don't care about these private firms. Like, I know what I'm doing, you know, and I think if there are Latinas that are entering law school with that in mind, that's great. Like, we need you. We need you there in the halls of power.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yes, yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. And especially, what you're doing though with the farm workers are important too. And I
yeah,
think you probably can see that there was probably a big demand at the center where you work, especially when we had the last administration and all the
oh,
issues that
yeah,
were going on with a lot of the farm workers and immigrants and difficulties that they went through. So, um,
yeah,
you know, probably even daughters of farm workers are probably looking at, wanting to be a lawyer because of what their parents have gone through. And so this is great that they get to listen to you and see that this is definitely a possibility. So what is your favorite quote? What's something that inspires you to move on the next day?
oh my goodness. Despite loving to read, I have terrible memory to remember quotes, and I can't ever do that. There is, I think, a Walt Whitman quote that I learned in high school. I was able, I went to a very small liberal arts high school where they did a great job teaching us history and literature. And it's something I'm going to paraphrase, but like it's something about like to live what it means to live a good life. And it's really about touching a child's life, right? Seeing a child smile, touching somebody's life in a positive way. And I really kind of that resonates so much for me. And I think it really does speak to sort of some of my core values and what I think is important in life. And I really do try to live my life that way. You know, am I doing things that are benefiting others? Am I doing things that are meaningful, both with for my family, my the people that I love, but also for people that I don't know necessarily. And that's why I think the farm worker work is so meaningful to me, because my clients, I get to know them in a very narrow window of time. I often don't talk to them after we resolve their cases, right? But I feel good about the work we've done together and how I've I and my organization has been able to help them in probably some of the worst times in their lives, right? They're not usually coming to us with happy stories. They're coming to us with things that were not good. So but yeah, so Walt Whitman, of course, because I would be remiss, Martin Luther King, you know, all of his writings, I mean, are just quotable, but don't do them justice, like just inspiring to me in the fight for justice. And also just the interracial and across class lines, right, really resonates for me, all of his words, powerful words. So
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I know that you're probably touching a lot of people's lives, and they probably appreciate it. I know the center you work at is amazing, and it sounds like you are making a big difference for the farm workers that you're working with.
I hope so. We don't win every case, but we at least try.
You're there for the fight, so that's what they,
Yeah.
alongside of them, whether
Yeah.
you're helping them get their voice
Yeah.
out, and that's
And
important.
and you know, for me also, I just feel like they really deserve, like farm workers and low wage workers, to deserve the same quality legal representation that these corporate employers have, right? They have these fancy lawyers that get paid $300 an hour, or their firms do, and are making a lot of money, and therefore are going to go to bat. And we want to give the same, if not better, representation. We want, for because they do deserve that and much more. So
Yeah, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have food on the table.
that's true.
So
Yep,
it's so important.
absolutely.
They're the most important part of our lives. So
Yeah,
that's why we should take care of them. So thank you.
yeah,
So I really
yeah.
appreciate it. So this has been really insightful, and I think you've inspired Latinas definitely as far as this career in law.
Great.
And I think that in
Yes.
immigration law is really a very important one. So thank you so much for everything you shared with us.
Yes, and of course, if any of you listening are interested in a internship with Merck, just check out our website. It's www.michiganimmigrant.org, and we have an internships page. And we always take summer interns, and they're paid internships because that's super important. We want to make this accessible to Latinas, and we love hosting, bilingual Latina interns. So,
That's great. I'm going to make sure I
mhm.
post that as well. Thank
Okay.
you. Well, this
Yeah.
concludes our show with Asa Latina. Thank you for being with us, and we hope that you'll join us in the next one.